Welcome back to the Family Festival Sail broadcast special on Channel 82 Bermuda.
Well, I'm a huge supporter of sailing in Bermuda. I've sailed all my life and I've rowed all my life, believe it or not. I'm Deputy Chairman of the Marion Bermuda Cruising Race, which will be next year. And we interact with the Newport Bermuda race as well. We have joint trophies and what have you. So anything that gets particularly our youth on the water, and there are lots of sailing programs here. It doesn't matter whether you've got lots of money or not. There are tons of sailing programs. And our own rowing program, we attempt to attract people both who can afford to pay us and those who cannot. And one of our slogans, in fact, is better in a crew than a gang. So we find that we do a lot of work with youth. We're looking to make our next growth step, however. It's an all-body workout. It's not in any way an impact sport, but it works both the anaerobic and aerobic side of things for you. So your breath improves and your muscle and your skeleton and everything else improves. It's a great improver for the lower back muscles if done correctly, which is what we're showing the ladies there a moment ago. And it's a wonderful gliding sport when you're on the water. Our narrowest boats are only 11 inches wide and typically about 25 foot long, and our longest boats are, here in Bermuda at least, are 44 feet long and about 20 inches wide. They're long and skinny, they have very little buoyancy, and they slice through the water like a U-boat rather than a surface boat, like a submarine almost. So if there's any waves, they tend to slice right through rather than riding over on top. But they're very fast, they require very little effort to row, they're very light. Again, the 11-inch wide, 25-foot long boat weighs about 39 pounds, fully rigged. And they're so narrow that if we put them in the water, they just capsize. These ones that you see here are our trainers. It's a trainer single and a trainer double. The double's 30 foot long and about 20 inches wide, and the single's about 21 feet long and 20 inches wide. So they're a bit more stable. And also that extra width is good for our conditions here where we're rowing in open water, not on rivers and small lakes, which is more normal. So we're dealing with rougher water and wakes and all kinds of wind and what have you. So even though we're doing river, lake, Olympic type rowing, we're mindful of the fact that the boats that get the most use here are actually our trainers, because they have a bit more buoyancy than our narrow. This is a trainer, it's quite wide, about 21 inches wide and 21 feet long. And the rower slides up and down this seat here, which allows their stroke to be greatly extended. So where kids in a little rowboat might have a stroke that's 3 or 4 foot long, we have a stroke that's about 16 foot long. And that, coupled with the lightweight and the narrow design, enables this boat to travel through the water very quickly. Watch the weather forecast very, very clearly indeed. And we are fair weather sailors. There's no point in no point in hiding that fact. And because if it wasn't, our balance would suffer. When we're rowing these things in a chop, they have very little stability, as you pointed out earlier. And when the oars are in the air during the recovery, it's a sense of balance, a bit like a tightrope walker using a pole. But when the oars are in the water, suddenly the boat's 16 foot wide from tip to tip, because the ends of the oars act as a kind of outrigger, and as long as we control their depth in the water, we've got a perfectly stable platform. The lack of stability is when they're in the air. The US men's 8 still hold the world record, which they achieved at the 2004 Summer Olympics in Athens. And they rowed the 2,000-meter course to win it in an average speed of 23 kilometers an hour. Give you an idea of speed. Now that's the 8s, and they were rowed by the best of the best. But these boats will get up to about 7 or 8 knots quite comfortably. In fact, I used to have great fun racing the ferry in these, the Paget ferry. Usually the ferry won, but I had them scared. Yes, we actually have a Bermudian world champion, believe it or not. Her name is Shelley Pearson. We didn't teach her to row, but we did help teach her to scull, which is rowing with 2 oars, like this single, rather than 1 oar, known as sweep rowing, like that double is set up as. And in rowing in an 8, she's part Bermudian, part American, and her crew won, her US Junior Ladies 8 won the World Championships in which she was rowing. Even by rowing standards, this is quite a wide boat. It's a trainer. And I was telling you earlier, the the greater width and gives us buoyancy in our choppy conditions here. But we have boats that are just over half the width of this, and they're much lighter than this. This boat weighs about 65 pounds. Our lightest ones like this weigh about 39 pounds. Yes, they're hollow, they're carbon fiber. You can hear it's hollow. We have inspection hatches to get into them. And as you can see, there's not much boat here, even though this is one of our bulkiest boats. The idea of bringing trainers to this show is to attract people to the sport of rowing, which is ultimately what we want to do. Rowing was, along with sailing, the very first water sport enjoyed in Bermuda. That's how the sailors got ashore from the sea venture, by rowing and subsequently sailing. And the gigs that the pilot boats used to use to go and get to be the first to arrive at the ship. On a windy day they would use their sails, on a flat day they would use their oars. So, and these are sweep oars. You think of the old galleys, you know, the Egyptian galleys or the Greek galleys with the man with the whip. Well, these are much bigger, heavier oars, and two hands are used for these. The outer hand controls the strength, the effort going into the oar, and the inner hand twists the oar because we feather the blade during the recovery. Then we stroke, feather, so we don't pick up any air or water for the next stroke. This style of rowing actually originated in England about 170 years ago, and the technology actually hasn't changed a great deal. Right from the beginning they were long skinny boats, usually 8s, with wooden oars, and the boats were made of wood. Indeed, when I first started rowing, the boats were still made of wood, and the drum skins stretched over the bow and stern, and they were works of art. These are works of craft rather than art now, because they're actually much better today. They're built of carbon fibre, which is lighter and stronger, and less prone to rot and other problems of old. But really, the basics of rowing haven't changed. The idea of the sliding seat, if you went back 100 years, and you saw a rowing race, apart from the way in which the equipment is constructed, you wouldn't see much change. I would say to them, rowing is an all-body sport, makes you fit as all Henry. You can do it late in life, so when you're too old and grey to run or skip and jump, you can keep rowing right up until your 90s if you maintain that fitness through your life. It does require some commitment, but it'll pay you back many times over in fitness and health and long life.
We'll talk with them when we return. The Family Festival of Sail will be back after these messages.